The day had begun like any other, yet there was a peculiar heaviness lingering in the air that I couldn't ignore. I had known the truth for weeks, maybe even months. The subtle inconsistencies, the hushed phone calls, the unexplained late nights, all signs that Caroline had been hiding something. She thought she was clever, untouchable, confident that her secret would remain hers alone. But I had watched quietly, collected the pieces, and observed her every move, all while maintaining my composure. I wasn't angry. I wasn't desperate. I was calculating, patient, letting the tension build until the perfect moment arrived. And now, seeing her stride into the room, confident and unsuspecting, I knew it was time to teach the lesson she had no idea she was about to receive. Finally, she asked the question I had been waiting for, her voice trembling ever so slightly with fear, confusion, and the faintest spark of hope. "Why don't you want me anymore?" she whispered, her eyes searching mine for the warmth, the spark of forgiveness, the reassurance she assumed would be there. I still felt, but I was no longer the man I had once been. I noticed the tiny flicker of panic in her pupils, the subtle micro-expressions revealing that she might have overstepped. Her carefully constructed arrogance, the same that had allowed her betrayal, began to crumble. I knew my calm, deliberate response would strike harder than any outburst of anger ever could. I smiled, not a sneer, not a grimace, just a slow, unwavering smile that conveyed the control I had reclaimed. "Because you already gave what was mine to someone else," I said, each word measured, loaded with the weight of truth and the sting of betrayal. The effect was instantaneous. Her face froze mid-expression, first confusion, then disbelief, and finally a creeping panic. She understood immediately that I had known all along. My composure wasn't ignorance, it was awareness. My patience wasn't weakness, it was quiet power. For a suspended moment, she couldn't breathe, speak, or even blink fast enough to shake off the realization that she had misjudged everything. Her next words came as a broken, desperate whisper. I didn't mean for it to happen," she stammered, trying to layer excuses over her wrongdoing, attempting to rewind time. But my silence spoke louder than any explanation ever could. I didn't need to justify myself. I didn't need to reveal how I had uncovered every detail. The truth was obvious, radiating from my posture, my expression, the calm certainty that I no longer needed her in my life. Every word she uttered fell flat, echoing weakly against the walls of my resolve. She searched my eyes, pleading, hoping for the tiniest crack of vulnerability that might let her charm work again. But I offered nothing. My gaze remained steady, unyielding, the clarity of a man wronged yet unbroken. The room seemed to close in as her bravado dissolved. The woman who had once wielded manipulation with ease now trembled under the quiet weight of truth. Every assumption she had relied on to mend what she had broken was crushed in a single serene moment. Minutes stretched as panic consumed her. She sank into a chair, trembling, drained by the intensity of her recklessness colliding with my calm resolve. She had underestimated the quiet power of observation, the meticulous gathering of evidence, the devastating force of measured authority. Now, as her justifications faltered, she faced the consequences of her own choices. The very thing she had betrayed, my trust, my heart, my devotion, could never be returned, and the weight of that reality bore down on her. Her apologies came next, soft, fractured, genuine in a way she rarely allowed herself. She tried to explain, to rationalize, to soften the blow with words, but it was too late. The damage was done. The lesson had been delivered. My calm, collected demeanor made it undeniable. She had overstepped, miscalculated, and was fully exposed to the ramifications of her actions. Every micro-expression, every tremor, every hesitant step reminded her that her betrayal left a permanent mark. By night's end, she was subdued, silent, painfully aware that our relationship could never return to its former state. My calm had been the hammer, an unassailable force shattering her assumptions. She had learned that giving what is sacred to another leaves a void that cannot be filled, and the man who protects what is his cannot be swayed by charm, excuses, or hope. The lesson was unmistakable, and it would linger. I walked away with nothing but quiet closure. No raised voice, No argument, no chase. The deliberate delivery of truth was far more powerful than confrontation, far more permanent than any plea, infinitely more satisfying than revenge could ever be. She faced the consequences of her choices, and I maintained my integrity and strength. As the night ended, her presence lingered like a shadow of regret, but I didn't need to interact. The message had been sent, the lesson absorbed. My calm, composed response spoke louder than any shouting or dramatics ever could. She had misjudged me, and she would never make the same mistake again. In that certainty, I found a quiet satisfaction that carried me through the night and beyond.